Hello and welcome to our spotlight video today discussing the topic of real estate technology. My name is Timothy Osborn, Adjunct Real Estate Instructor at Cincinnati State Technical and Community College, and I'm pleased to welcome my guest for today's topic, Adam Koehler. Welcome, Adam.
Hey, Tim. Good to be here.
I am so pleased to have you here today. Adam is a native of Cincinnati, Ohio, and served as co-founder and creative director for Dotloop, a digital documents company utilized by the real estate industry. In 2015, Dotloop was sold to Zillow Group for $108 million after generating over $2 trillion in sales volume. The entrepreneurial spirit of Adam and the other co-founders at Dotloop helped create a focus on Cincinnati as an entrepreneurial startup hub for the nation. Today, Adam leads Reversed Out Creative, a digital agency, and created CovWork's Coworking, a platform that connects community spaces, community working spaces, and communities in Northern Kentucky. Adam is also the advocate for blockchain technology and founded the Kentucky Blockchain Alliance. As a leading real estate and technology innovator, a commercial real estate investor, and a startup community advisor, it is my privilege to welcome Adam to this Spotlight series today. I always enjoy these bios. They're so fun to share it. And there's so much more I could have said about your background. You have such a great and diverse background, and you've been such an integral part in the focus on Cincinnati as an entrepreneurial hub for the nation, but also within the startup community and the real estate industry. So our topic today is real estate technology, and I really kind of want to zero on that because your background specifically influenced the real estate industry. I can remember when Dotloop came out, and I was owning and operating real estate companies, and it was revolutionary at the time. So tell me a little bit about how real estate and technology has impacted your life, and what do you think the greatest achievement you've had in real estate technology with Dotloop in the industry?
Yeah, well, I kind of got into the whole real estate world by renting property. I bought a big 5-bedroom house over in Price Hill, where I'm from. And originally that was a place for me and my brother to move into. And next thing you know, all of our friends started staying there, and we were renting rooms out. And this was like before Airbnb and everything. But I eventually rented that out to a family on Section 8. And it was a big family. It was 2 adults and 8 children at the time. Oh, wow. And they rented that place for about 13 years. I've had ups and downs. I've rented to most of their family. And I went one by one and started buying property. Unfortunately, I was buying this property back in, 2003, 2004. And, the market essentially collapsed in 2008. So if I would have just waited a few more years, I could have got a lot better deals on some of the property.
I think we all felt that way.
Yeah. But the good thing is that I'm also a graphic designer, and I worked at an ad agency downtown. We were working on things for Procter & Gamble, Fifth Third Bank, Red Bull, a lot of different, big companies. And that's where I met a buddy of mine, Matt Vorst, who knew Austin Allison, who had the idea for Dotloop. And Matt used to work with Austin's mother at a technology company. And Austin went to his mom. He said, "Hey, Mom, I'm sick of faxing these things." Austin, he was a real estate agent, I think, when he was 21. He bought his first house at 18. And he said, why are we still faxing things? What are we doing here? Like, this is crazy. Like, we've got the internet.
That was the way we did everything. I started in real estate in '94. So it was before computerization. We had tear sheets for the MLS. And I remember one of the biggest deals that I did, I bet my broker at the time when I was just starting out my career that I could sell a farm in 30 days in Southeast Indiana, but he had to buy the office a fax machine. And we got the farm sold and we got the fax machine. And I remember those days of feeding the fax machine with like 10, 12 pages of a contract and then waiting for the fax signatures to come back. And it was quite the cumbersome task.
Oh, it was awful, right? And I didn't even know. I mean, I'd purchased, 6, 7 houses at the time we started Dotloop, and this was 2008, I believe, like kind of towards the end of 2008. And, Austin met with me and Matt, and the three of us sat down, and he talked about his idea, and he said, look, I want to eliminate the fax machine in the real estate industry.
Wow.
And I was like, sounds good to me. Like, I'm all about technology, And, we sat down probably for the next 18 months, almost every weekend. And, there's sacrifices you have to make when you do a startup. It's not something you do kind of on the side or whatever. I mean, you have to commit to this thing. And luckily, Austin the guy's a killer. He goes out and he doesn't take no for an answer.
Right.
He's that guy. He was that guy in the group, right? I'm the designer marketer. Matt was the technology guy. And, luckily Matt took equity for the amount of Java work he had to do. And, good luck finding any Java developer nowadays that is going to work for equity.
Right.
But, this is 2009, startups were like just getting going, and they were kind of hot and people were hearing about them. So the three of us just kind of sat down and, did all of our user experience work and, customer journey work and everything else. And every weekend, probably, we were either at the Panera Bread up on UC's campus, or we were at Matt Vorst's basement apartment in Blue Ash. And just coming up with stuff. And Matt started building the prototype, and, we launched the first version of it. And, 5 years later, or in 2015, we sold that to Zillow Group.
Right.
Transaction. It was $104 million is what we exited for. But the company almost died 3 or 4 times. So people hear about this Dotloop story and they're like, oh, Dotloop, what a great success. I mean, it almost died. Like, and
I really appreciate you sharing that story, because I think a lot of people, when they think of real estate as a career, or they think of a startup or an entrepreneurial idea, they think it's just all smooth selling. You get a few customers and life is easy. And they don't realize really the roller coaster rides. Even as a real estate broker launching, I've launched 4 different real estate companies in my career. Each one had its own different, unique spin to what it meant to be a real estate broker. And every one of them went through great times, which were highly successful. And other times you're like, are we going to sell anything this month? So every business is kind of like that. And I think I really appreciate you sharing that story, because for those that are in the real estate program, I think the reality of perseverance, persistence, commitment is really a true factor that someone has to adopt for their future, because you're going to have good times, you're going to have bad times. And I remember when Dotloop came out and we were all moving over in Northern Kentucky to real estate transactions that were signed online and not using the fax machines. And I remember all of us thinking, oh, this is the most wonderful thing. I can send an email link to my client at work and they can sign their contract, and I don't have to wait, and they don't have to run to a library or to the bank to
or
fax
Walmart's
it.
parking lot and sign it on the back of a car.
Right. Yeah. Or the big thing was the Staples fax machines, in the Staples stores, you would line up out there.
Or FedEx, Kinko. It was just Kinko's back then.
Yeah, right. So I do appreciate you sharing that. That's interesting that one simple idea can have such a revolutionary impact on a whole industry. And when we think of real estate technology, what trends do you see on the horizon for real estate and for real estate agents to be aware of?
I've had, I run an advertising agency now too. Well, I ran the advertising agency since we started Dotloop pretty much. But I think one of the big things is you hear a lot about people trying to get rid of the real estate agent. And they've been talking about that since we started Dotloop.
Yeah, I think they've been talking about that since I started real estate.
Oh, exactly. And I don't think they understand the gravity of that. Like, the real estate agent runs everything. I mean, everything goes through the real estate agent. And it's not an easy task. And I think, they think, oh, well, we're just going to allow people to list everything themselves, and it's going to be fine, and the whole transaction is going to be online. There are some companies out there that are attempting to do that, even locally. And I cannot remember the name, but it is a North American Properties had spun this company out. HomeShake is what it's called.
HomeShake.
HomeShake. So I'm really interested in how they do, and they're a good group of guys. And, we'll see what happens. They do have, funding behind them and things like that. And it's working. It's up and running. They've got houses listed and everything. So I'm really interested to see how that goes. And then you've got things like the Redfins of the world and the discount brokers. And I literally just finished a branding project for a company called Deuces Realty down in Florida. Yeah.
Oh my.
And they needed a whole brand done. And what their tagline is why pay more, sell for 4.
Right.
So each side's paying 2%, right? And
right.
So it's the whole idea is like, hey, I'm not a discount broker, but you get all the services and everything else. But because he's a broker, he can kind of charge whatever he wants, and he's going to do the 4% versus the 7% down in Florida. So you've got people out there that are doing those. There's so many different variants, I think, on the traditional real estate model.
Right.
Do I think the 7% thing is going to go away at some point? I do. I think you're going to, you just got too much competition from discount brokers. Technology.
Or you're going to have to subsidize the 7% with additional services like a design budget, a staging budget.
Yes.
You're going to have to, yeah. And, when I had my last brokerage firm, we did a pick what you pay program. It started at 4%. It went to 7%. And customers could pick what they pay, but within but within each model, they got different bundles of services, all the way up to we send a designer in, staged and designed their home. So I think I'm with you on that concept that you're going to see the real estate industry have all these variants. Two things about technology and real estate that really interests me, which I wanted to ask your opinion on, is the impact of blockchain on real estate technology. Where do you see that going?
Well, we actually have another company that I've invested in. It's called CProp, which is crypto properties.
Right.
And the idea was, it was more in the commercial space at first. When you think about what is the value of blockchain technology? Well, it's something that doesn't require a middleman, and it's trusted. Because it's immutable. The ledger is immutable. When something goes on the ledger, it's committed to the chain. Block is created with information and it's committed to the chain. You can't go back and change it, right? So anything that happens is recorded and you can trust it. So one of the big things we were talking about doing, both of my co-founders in this were JLL. They both worked at JLL.
Correct.
And one
Our
of the
other
big problems,
instructor works at JLL.
yeah. So one of the big problems with in the commercial buildings are the records they keep for maintenance.
Right.
So blockchain, when you tie in Internet of Things, when you tie in IoT devices to that, now you can have a system where the IoT device is monitoring the mechanicals in the building. So just quick example. If the engine or something started going out on the furnace, right? Or the motor started going out on the furnace, it would just, maybe it shakes really weird or something. And this IoT device alerts the maintenance people through their cell phone, right? Through an app that maybe we create, and says, hey, you're going to have to replace that motor at some point. Let's get ready to go out. By the way, here's how much it's selling for on Granger, or here's how much it's selling for on Amazon or whatever. So the guy goes ahead and he buys it, right? Boop, buys the thing. It gets shipped out. Every bit of that supply chain, right? And that process, who ordered it, how much they paid, is there a warranty on it? Where did it come from? All that information gets stored in the blockchain.
Well, that's pretty good. So there within the blockchains, you have your maintenance record, you have all kinds of data available that is recorded. I always never understood why no one had the idea to take deeds and turn them into blockchain technology.
They did, and it didn't work.
How did that?
Because what is there, 7,000 different municipalities, right, in America?
Right.
So there was a company in Northeast Ohio, and there's this big blockchain thing that happens every year up in Cleveland, and it's called Blockland. And it's really, really good. It's well done. And one of the companies that sponsored that tried to do that. They got a couple municipalities in Ohio to do it.
So was it just a lack of adoption?
Lack of adoption. They get the file cabinet system.
That makes sense.
Got it in their file cabinet. And it would require, and if anybody understands blockchain, they know that every computer that validates the transactions on the blockchain is called a node.
Right. Correct.
So ideally, in a perfect world, all 7,000 of those municipalities would run a computer, a
Right.
node, right?
Right.
And they would validate the transactions on the network for everyone else. That way you have a decentralized system and there's
Right.
no central authority.
Hmm.
It's decentralized, just like Bitcoin.
Correct.
You and I do a Bitcoin transaction. There's no bank. There's no middleman.
Right.
It's
Exactly.
decentralized. 30 million computers running the blockchain network, or the Bitcoin network. So same kind of concept. So you would really want as many of those municipalities to get on board as possible. It's just you're herding cats, trying to get all these people to do something. Totally makes sense. But you know what else would make sense? Blockchain voter records.
Oh,
Like
that makes
blockchain voter ID.
Yeah.
That way there's no question, right? Like you can't say this person voted
question
twice.
about whether someone's registered or not,
You don't have to
or
worry
if their ID is valid or not. Right.
Yes.
So that actually is brilliant.
But
so,
why don't they want us to do that? Like, I mean, is there manipulation? And this is why blockchain is powerful, because it's trusted, right? Just like I was talking about with CPROP. You've got the commercial real estate. There's a guy with a clipboard right now. He keeps, oh yeah, I think I bought that back in this, and oh, here's an invoice, and they're fumbling around with paper, just like Dotloop, right? What did we do? We got rid of all of that. So now, do you want to trust this guy who keeps all of his records on a clipboard and in a file cabinet, or do you want to charge this trustless, system? You don't need to trust, it's working, right?
Right.
You can trust that. So if I'm Collier's and I go in and I want to buy a building off of JLL or whatever, I say, hey, show me the records. Here it all is, right? I can look at everything.
Completely trust it and know that it's valid. I really appreciate you sharing that, because from a commercial real estate perspective, I can see where that systems wise, your example with JLL is a wonderful example for how technology is going to impact property management, how it's going to impact overseeing the operations, facilities maintenance. That's pretty cool. So for a real estate agent, what are the top 5 real estate technologies they're going to need to be familiar with to be successful?
Well, obviously, Zillow is top of the list. Obviously, I mean, Zillow's taking over real estate. I mean, the things that they're doing, buying houses now, in many markets. I think right now, what did they start out in Phoenix, I believe?
Right.
But it's just changing the game. Like these technology companies are taking over a lot of these industries. And, the people that are listening to this, the students that are listening to this, they understand how technology works.
Yeah.
It was so hard for us to get real estate agents to adopt Dotloop. I mean, it was,
right. I remember that.
it's because who does all the business, right? It's like a 90-10 in real estate. It's 10% of the agents are doing 90% of the business.
Right.
And those agents are ancient.
Yeah.
A lot of those
the average age, according to NAR, is 55 years old. That's the average age of an agent. When I think about real estate technology and what an agent will use, some things that really excite me. Keller Williams has their own intranet platform that's doing some really good work on the technology side of things. Of course, every agent needs a good CRM. They need, for customer relationship management. It's interesting to see how so many advances in smartphone technologies and applications have been created, since I even started in real estate. So one of the things that I wanted to really kind of talk to you about is how often do you think a real estate agent will use real estate technology in their day-to-day functions?
Well, so I've got a friend who's an EXP agent.
Yeah.
And as you know, EXP is blowing up. I mean, if you go look at their stock.
I almost bought EXP about 10 years ago.
Oh my God, yeah.
I had the opportunity and I chose a different brand at the time. Because the virtual world freaked me out a little bit.
That's what I was going to bring up. I was going to bring up the virtual world because she showed me this little virtual world thing. And I was like, what is going on here? So it's like a place where agents can kind of like mill around in this like 3D world and talk to each other. And they meet their clients through there also. And I was actually surprised people were using it.
Like, well, actually, I recently watched a demo for this class from EXP, and they have really perfected it compared to 10 years ago when I looked into it. So I now see a real estate agent is connected to technology in their business almost every minute of every single day they're working.
They didn't used to be. When we started, they were the real estate industry. What people are going to find out is, I mean, it's still somewhat risk averse, right? It's still somewhat technology averse. They're not the number one adopters of technology. They're not just going to jump into something. It takes a lot of, especially older brokerages that are big, and there's a lot of red tape. And it takes them a while to adopt things, and they have to plug it into their already existing systems and make sure they work. And the good thing about Dotloop is Keller Williams was our big client, right?
Right.
They were the one that legitimized us.
Right.
And they had a platform called Keller Williams' e-transactions platform. But they didn't have an e-signatures portion to it. So we were able to plug right into that. But I think 80,000 agents at the time signed up because Keller Williams was corporate, and they were like, you're going to use this. This is our platform. You're going to use this.
Right, right.
Well, then a majority of those guys that were doing work, 80% of the work they were doing were with other brokers, right? From outside of Keller Williams.
Right.
Yeah. So then they were like, oh, fax that over to me. Keller Williams agents like, why would I do that when I've got this Dotloop thing now?
Right, right. And that is actually how, and then it was like a windfall. Within 12 months, everybody was using it.
90%, I believe, of all agents in the country. And there's what, 1.5 million agents or something like that?
Correct.
90% were using Dotloop. We're signed up at least to use Dotloop.
Interesting. I saw Picasso.
Oh my God.
Recently, and I want to bring that topic up for our investors that are in the class. I shared with the class the Picasso website and the concept of co-ownership managed by a third-party service or a software platform for Picasso. And their model of creating investment opportunities for co-owners. I really think that's where the future is going to go, on commercial investments, on luxury properties, on second home investments. What is your opinion of that?
So when I first learned about what he was doing, and this is my co-founder, the guy who came up with the idea for Dotloop, he's now doing Picasso, but he's doing Picasso with his co-founder, Spencer Rasnoff, used to be the CEO of Zillow when they bought Dotloop.
Right.
So pretty good team to have doing this. And, Spencer obviously is a visionary, just like Austin. And I think what they're looking at is the rise in the cost of homes now. I mean, you look over the last 10 years at what's going on. I mean, it's unaffordable. It's in many cases. If I was a young person now, I don't know what I would do. Like, I'd be freaking out right now.
Yeah. And I think that I appreciate the concept of owning a second home through co-ownership and being able to own a fractional part of that home and use it somewhat like a timeshare concept, where you have a block of time that you can go and actually use the home for vacations or stay there or whatever. And
it's not a ripoff like a timeshare.
Yeah, it's exactly right. I appreciate that comment.
Where you're paying probably 5 to 10 times more than you should be paying for.
That's right. That's right. Well, I'm going to get ready to wrap us up with one last question. What are the top apps you would recommend for a real estate agent?
I would say, I don't think there's necessarily an app that I would recommend. What I would say is, if you're getting into real estate and you're deciding what broker you want to connect yourself with. And my wife, her sister just went through this, trying to decide who did she want to partner with. And, real estate agents, they bounce around from, Sipsy Klein to Remax to, they're all over the place sometimes. I would say get with a technology focused real estate brokerage that understands you, that understands, your feedback and is willing to listen to what you say, as opposed to someone who, an old stick in the mud, doesn't want to change, wants to live off of, live off of the brand they've had for 100 years, that's, we'll be fine. We're, Xerox essentially, like, the same thing. Oh, we're Xerox, we're IBM, we're, Microsoft too, Apple computer, whatever. So yeah, you want to be with a brokerage that embraces technology, and then whatever they're using, think about ways to improve it, because there's entrepreneurship opportunities in that. So if you go in, it's just what Austin did. He was 21 years old and he went in, he's like, why are we faxing things? Right. We should be doing this. And he built it. We went in and we built it. So there's opportunities to make everything better. And when you're getting into an industry that doesn't necessarily leverage technology the best. So think about all the technologies you use now in your world. And then how do you apply some of that video, 3D home tours and things like that are popular now, but there's other things. What's the next thing? What's, what is going to happen? How can I envision my furniture in this place or whatever, just come up with it. I mean, Picasso, you just mentioned Picasso. Picasso is now the fastest company to a $1 billion valuation.
Yeah, I know.
In American startup history.
Yeah. And I think that that's interesting because it's in the real estate industry, and many of the concepts that they're using, it's just the evolution of where we have been and where we are. And I love the brilliance behind it. Well, I have enjoyed having you today, Adam. I could be on this platform with you for probably.
We've talked, but yeah, we know where we could take this, Tim. We know where we can just keep going.
I really appreciate you sharing your story with us, with the students at Cincinnati State Technical and Community College. And most of all, thank you for what you've done in our city, for our startup community. Thank you for all the contributions you've made to the real estate industry. And we really appreciate you being here today. And I just want to close with a big thank you. And I look forward to more conversations with you.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Oh, and then Side Hustle City. We're doing, I'm going to try to, I got to get you on the podcast.
Yeah, well, I'll get on there with you sometime.
There's some good episodes on here. Well, there's some good episodes on here. I don't know, Joe Fairless, right?
Right.
Joe Fairless was on here. He's got $1 billion worth of real estate. Buddy of mine, Ash Patel, son of immigrants, has over a $20 million commercial real estate portfolio that's just his. He didn't syndicate it. It's all his thing. So there's a lot of really good people that are, we had a WWE, an ex-WWE wrestler from Wales in the UK. He's doing multifamily now.
Listen to some of your podcasts.
Yeah, he just bought some multifamily property in Covington, Kentucky. So there's a lot of good stuff, but you would definitely.
Actually, Kate Vaughn, the legendary Hollywood tattoo artist, just bought the mansion in my hometown.
I love it.
The Shank Mansion. In VV, Indiana, my hometown. And I sold that back when it was a dump. I mean, we sold the thing for like 180, 200,000. Of course, the Fisher family came in, bought it, gloriously restored the place. And it was a local bed and breakfast for years. So, well, thanks so much for being here today. I really appreciate it. Hang on here. I'll chat with you a little bit, but I'm going to let our audience go, and I'll be back with you in a second. Thanks for watching today, and we look forward to talking to you more about real estate technology in class.